Well guys, it's me again, back out in the woods. It's been a while. I've not done much filming of late, but things keep getting in the way, work and what have you. Had a nice trip on my birthday to the Natural History Museum in London for their big nature day. Very interesting. More on that later. I'm out here today. I'm having a little explore and seeing what I can find, looking at what they've been doing to these woods. Been doing an awful lot of woodland management. Some of it's good, some of it's bad, and I've also got a new thing. I've got a catapult. I bought myself a catapult. It's something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. I'm a great believer in hunting for food, not for pleasure, though there is a certain amount of pleasure, I suppose, in hunting. I think it's the fact of tracking the quarry. And I like pigeon and I like squirrel to eat, and I like the occasional rabbit. Getting these can be quite difficult. So I thought, well, get myself a catapult. It's a convenient weapon to put in your rucksack, along with the appropriate ammunition. The thing is, you've got to build your skill up. Some people are very good with catapults and some aren't. As I say, it's something you can drop into your rucksack if you're going out for an overnight, and maybe take the opportunity of getting something for the pot. So today I'm just going to do some target practice, and food wise I've just got a little pack up, a few crackers and some salami and cheeses. But further than that, let's just say I'm going to have a wander around this late spring, early summer woodland. See you in a moment, guys. Well, I'm enjoying this little wander through the woods. I haven't settled down yet. There's some rhododendron ponticum. It's quite an invasive species, and this is in the middle of an overstood coppice. As you know, I do tend to come here quite a lot because it's pretty local to where I live, and I do like it. It's nice to come here through the year, see the change of the seasons. It's very quiet. It's a beautifully sunny day. The trees are bending in the breeze, and not seen much in the way of wildlife about. I haven't seen any pigeons, squirrel or anything today. I've heard a few cackling calls from the magpies and the crows. It's just really peaceful. There's little Alfie, my wonderful aging hound. He's getting on a bit now, but he's a wonderful little dog, and I'm just enjoying it. It's really good. I'm looking for some wood to make an arrow with, and I hope to find some later. Either a piece of willow or a piece of hazel. I'll explain the specifics of the arrow. If I don't find the wood, I'll explain what I'm doing arrow wise. It won't be a pointy arrow. Other than that, I'm just going to carry on walking. I'm going to crawl up underneath this. So I'll catch you in the next scene, guys. Well, there's a piece of hazel, and in here you'll see my little pocket saw sticking into the piece that I've picked up to make the arrow with. There we go. So hopefully this will make a nice arrow. Well guys, this is it. This is the one that I've got. It's going to require some steam bending to make the arrow. It's got a few, obviously nothing ever goes straight, and I'm going to strip the bark off in a bit, and when I get home I shall I shall straighten it over the gas stove. I could make a fire here, I suppose, and do it that way, but I can do it in the comfort of my own home. It's basically going to be an arrow. It's quite heavy actually. I suppose by the time it's dried out it'll be a lot lighter, and it's a bit, I think it's a bit thick, but I think again by the time I finish trimming it down and dressing it, it's going to be a little bit narrower. It's only an experimental thing. Now, many years ago, long before the internet existed, I was looking up arrows for some reason. I think it was something to do with medieval history or something. My mind's always sort of like going off on different little tracks, and I was looking at all these various arrows. I mean, not only did you get the arrows that the archers would have used at, say, Agincourt with bodkins on the end for piercing chainmail. There are also arrows with flint tips, obviously, the traditional type arrowhead. There's also the microliths they used on the tips of arrows. Also whistling arrows, which I think the Japanese use. But I also noticed some other arrows there that had blunt tips. They were a blunt end, similar to the end you get on the end of canes in garden centres, and these were used for taking out game, particularly birds. You don't always need to pierce the animal's body in order to take it down. Just give it a good headshot or a good body shot to stun it, and you can go and pick the animal up. And that's what I'm intending to make. I'm intending to make an arrow that has got a blunt end to it. It's got more of a, yes, for want of a better word, a club end. So you basically, it'll good. Now, to use a sling bow, as far as I can see in this country at the moment, to use a sling bow or to use an arrow from a slingshot, or to go hunting with arrows at all with a bow and arrow, is actually illegal. You can do field archery, you can do standard target archery, but actually go out and procure game with a bow and arrow or with a catapult and an arrow is actually illegal. That's by the by. That is down to your own conscience whether you do it or not. I mean, most of us, I would assume, carry a fixed blade knife when we're out in the woods, and they're technically illegal unless you've got good cause to carry one. And trying to prove that good cause is very difficult sometimes. But regardless, it's a nice sort of thing I'm going down. I've got myself a Black Widow catapult, and also somewhere indoors, a few years back, I bought a catapult for launching bait for fishing, and I'm going to try and use that as part of this setup. And it's just an avenue that I'm exploring. Hunting for food does interest me, and it's a procurement of food, whether you're actually going up, oh, there's an insect over there, whether you're going after pigeon, rabbit, squirrel. These are classed as pest species in this country, and so they can be hunted all year round. And I must emphasise that I believe in hunting for food. If you capture it and you kill it, you must eat it. Obviously if it's very disease ridden you wouldn't, but it's not, I do not believe in sort of like going out with a rifle and hunting down a stag, taking a stag out just for the sheer pleasure of being able to do that. A lot of people don't eat that food, which is frankly quite annoying. And it's a very good thing. Of course, got my old trusty woodlaw with me. Don't go far without it when I'm out in the woods. It's either sitting in the back of my rucksack when there's a lot of people around, or it's hanging off my impromptu belt loop. I use the carabiner, and it means I can clip and unclip the belt, the knife, out of its sheath, so that I don't have to sort of take the belt off. I keep meaning to get a popper dropper for it, but it's one of them, well yeah, I'll get it eventually. Whoops, I've just lost the line I was marking there. Right, so basically you just carve down the line. We had some terrific weather here yesterday. Hailstones the size of broad beans almost. They were huge, you know, about like that. And they were a huge thing. And oh, there we go. Oh, that's beautiful. It's actually coming off quite well. So you think by the time you finish dressing something like this, I mean, this is hazel, so it won't make any cordage out of the bark as such. But I've been trying to think of what to fetch this with. I've got some feathers indoors somewhere, and if they're in good nick, I shall probably use them. But failing that, as it's only an experiment or something, and a route that I'm exploring, I might get the old ubiquitous gaffer tape out. Very useful stuff. I'll keep some in my first aid kit. Great for plugging up holes when you actually puncture yourself, and to that end I'm actually hoping to do a first aid course at work. My wilderness emergency medic certificate is now expired and I need to renew it, so I thought, well, I'll do the first aid course at work, it renews the certificate and I get paid for doing it rather than actually pay someone to teach me to do it. Well, on other things, a couple of weekends back, as I mentioned, I went on to the big nature day at the Natural History Museum. Fascinating day, and it really was good. Now, I didn't know there were so many different societies. I mean, there's a society, there's the, I think it's the British Diptera Society, which looks at flies, and there was a society that looks at earthworms, another one that was did millipedes and centipedes and woodlice and that, and I discovered that there was actually a woodlouse that lives in ants' nests. It's a little tiny white one. There are people that there's a British Wildflower Society, there is a British Orchid Society, and it was a fascinating day. And to go there and to sort of pick up leads on enhancing what I do out here. Most of us come out and we'll sit down, have a cup of tea, and that's about it. We don't actually do much else, but to actually explore what's going on around you. You know, I mean, I often carry these with me. These are a couple of loops, a 10 times and a 20 times loop, and you just scrape beneath the surface of the woodland floor. There's an amazing amount of wildlife there. I mean, all wildlife doesn't have to be birds and deer and badgers and whatever. There's loads of other stuff, little flying insects which I can see catching the light round here. Just below the surface there are various beetles, insects. I've just downloaded a sample of a book by Christopher Packham, and it's all about setting up like a nature reserve in your back garden. And he was talking about a chap in Birmingham, a scientist, I think he was a botanist, and he decided to explore in his back garden what wildlife there was there, and he found, and this was only back in what, 20 years ago, and he found four spiders that were new to science, you know, and he found various subspecies of plants and other insects that were very rarely known. So, you know, you don't have to go too far. I mean, Today I haven't gone far at all. I had intended for a night out, but you know, just spending the day, you know, I'm stripping this bark out, just spending the day and getting out here. You know, often we look upon what we call as bushcraft, or for many people it's just an excuse to gather loads and loads of kit. Where really it's using minimal kit, getting out there and enjoying yourself. I've missed doing some of the courses this year. So far, in the normal course of events I would have done at least 2 or 3 courses by now. You know, weekend jobbies with Wood Smoke or another company, but I'm given a bit of a sabbatical, partly because it's the cost. It starts getting a bit expensive. Right, that's stripped down, and it's got a nice little bend to the right. If you look, if I do that, you can look down, you can see how bent it is. Right, now I'll get home and I shall dry this out somewhat. In fact, I'm going to have to trim the little knobbly bits off the side. I shall trim it down. One end I shall do the fletchings. What I'll do is, you don't cut a knock in it as such. You don't cut a traditional knock if you use it out of a sling. You cut basically notches around like that, so that when you pull back, you've got something to grip on. And with a bit of luck, you should work quite well. Anyway, I've been rambling on a bit. As I say, it's good to get out. It's a fine. I would say it's an early summer rather than a late spring day. I was going to make some beech leaf noyau this year. Oh, a little flying thing. I was going to make a beech leaf noyau this year, but I missed the beech leaves. Work ran away with me this year. I had a tendency to get too much involved with work. My days off got split up. I have a Tuesday and a Thursday off during the week, and it can make it difficult for going out for any length of time. I like to have 2 days off together like I've got this weekend, so I can actually have, so I think I can relax, I can get out, relax, and not worrying about getting back too quick. The reason is I go to bed, normally on a working day, I go to bed about 8 o'clock in the evening, because I'm up at 2 o'clock in the morning getting ready to go to work. But that's by the by. But as I say, I went to this big nature day and there's all these various societies. Oh, there was my favourite one there, the BMS, the British Mycological Society, and they were giving little bags of oyster mushroom spore, which you can grow on paperback books or you can grow on straw. So I'm going to get myself a small straw bale, excuse me folks, and impregnate it with the spore and grow some oyster mushrooms at home. I also picked up a microscope there. It's a very cheap microscope, and I was assured by one of the ladies on one of the tables that some of the scientists use them in the field, and it's a 20 to 40 times microscope, pocket microscope. I've got to make a little bag for it, or box for it, so to protect it a bit, and you can bring it out into the field. You get a couple of slides with it, but for a cheap little microscope it's very, very good. Other than that, that's about it. There's not much been going on sort of bushcrafty wise in my time. I've been concentrating on getting the back garden squared up. We've got some new gear here, and we're growing tomatoes this year upside down. If I can find the photographs, I shall take some photographs on the end of what I mean by that. Basically, you get yourself a 2 litre bottle, you cut the bottom of the bottle off, you upend it so the neck's hanging down, you feed the tomato plant through the bottom, pack it out with your potting compost or whatever, your growing medium, and then you just hang them up. The tomatoes are hanging down, they slowly bend up that way, getting ready to be tied back, keeps the slugs off them, and it seems to be a pretty efficient way of growing them. I'm going to have a go at growing peppers next year this way as well, because we bought a load of peppers, Avalon and I, last year, and we lost all but one of them to the slugs. And I'm going to have a go at growing some wild foods in pots. I like to go foraging, but sometimes, you know, it's foraging for stuff is a bit difficult round here. There isn't a lot. I've got the last of the ramsons in my pocket, which I'm going to have with me lunch. There we go. There's a few ramsons there, and I shall have them with my cheese and biscuits later. But this woodland here, is very little to forage. You tend to find within the woodland there's very little to forage for. Most of the stuff is on the margins or in the open spaces. And this is quite dense, being as a lot of it is overstood coppice, and coppice woodland, once it's matured, does tend to be very dense. There's not a lot of light getting into the woodland floor. But other than that, it's onwards and upwards. So I shall catch you guys in a minute. I'm going to put the kettle on, I'm going to sit back, have a cup of tea, I'm going to dress this arrow shaft up a little bit and have a wander. I'm going to have a little dig around the dirt, see what I can find in the way of maybe a rove beetle or beetles or just anything that creeps and crawls on the ground. So catch you later, guys. Right, there we go, guys, the upside down tomato plants, as mentioned earlier, and growing very well. A little addendum up on the catapult. I did practice with the catapult, I didn't video myself doing it. I hit my target a few times and was quite pleased. I need to get pea-sized gravel to use as temporary shot. I do have some ball bearings, and the catapult come with some ball bearing shot, and I find that will be better for what I need. Obviously, right tool for the right job. Anyway, guys, that's the tomatoes growing upside down.